Welcome to our latest episode, where we dive deep into the international sanctions and geopolitical strategies shaping the conflict between Russia and the West. Today we will explore the European Union's new sanctions against Russia's maritime operations, the implications for global oil markets, and the rising tensions in the Baltic Sea. Stay tuned as we unravel these political developments and their potential impacts on the future of international relations.
The European Union has announced new sanctions against the Russian Federation, which include sanctions against Sovcomflot company and certain vessels owned by this company. Sovcomflot is Russia's main operator of cargo maritime transportation. Essentially, this company is the owner of what is known as the dray tanker fleet oil tanks that Russia purchased at the beginning of the conflict and now uses to transport its oil to various ports worldwide. The task before the European Union is to render these grey tankers ineffective so that Russia can transport its oil only using official, clean, white tankers owned by reputable companies with global recognition rather than dubious backyard organizations like Sovcomflot. These sanctions are being imposed because only such clean and legally compliant tankers can transport Russian oil if the price of oil falls below the ceiling, i.e. below $60 per barrel. When Russia has its own tanker, it can load its oil to that tanker and ship it to buyers without regard to Western imposed price ceilings. However, if the tanker is Western owned, it assesses the price of the oil it carries, and if it exceeds $60 per barrel, it refuses to transport it. Therefore, Russia loses the ability to export its oil. This is essentially what these new sanctions aim to achieve, to phase out these grey tankers. The EU is beginning this by sanctioning them, starting with what seems to be a batch of 27 vessels. Further, I think they will continue to disable them one by one. Russia may try to purchase new tankers, but each one will face sanctions. What does this mean? These sanctions will likely prohibit these ships from entering the territorial waters of EU countries. Essentially, these tankers will be unable to move in the Mediterranean or the Baltic Sea. This means they lose access to Russia's main oil-loading ports in Ust-Luga, St. Petersburg and Novorossiysk. Russia will lose the ability to sell its oil at the desired price and will be forced to sell it for less than $60 per barrel. This will significantly impact the Russian economy as it will lose tens, if not hundreds of billions of dollars that are currently being directed towards the war effort. Without these funds, Russia will not be able to sustain the same intensity of war, leading to sharp cuts in military spending, armaments and payments to military personnel. Of course, Moscow is furious, but it can't do much about it. It can only declare mobilization and enforce harsh repression against dissenters, collapse its economy, shift it onto a war footing, introduce rationing for bread and possibly even butter, if there is any left, and turn the entire country into a large military camp. Children will be sent to factories, parents to the front lines. This would be a real war akin to World War II. This is the only option left for the Russian Federation, but I'm not sure Putin will go this far. Why? Because such measures risk a military coup or elite conspiracy. No one in Russia really understands why this war is necessary, if it requires such sacrifices. If to avoid such a scenario, Russia has begun actively threatening its Baltic Sea neighbors. Initially, the Russian fleet held exercises in the Baltic Sea amid increasing tensions. Foreign observers speak of the prohibition on Russian tankers passing through NATO countries' territorial waters. This tension will continue to grow, and the Baltic Fleet ships have just conducted maneuvers to repel attacks by drones and unmanned boats of a hypothetical enemy. They also practice creating radio-electronic interference. Moreover, Russian military conducted strikes against a group of hypothetical enemy warships. A missile boat named Dmitrovgrad used the Moskit complex to successfully hit all designated targets, as reported by the Baltic Fleet Press Service. These maneuvers took place a week after Danish authorities announced the possibility of restricting the movement of Russian shadow fleet tankers that transport oil to circumvent Western sanctions. Putin says, "If you block our tanker passage, we'll send a missile cruiser against you." Sorry, Mitovgrad, using anti-ship musket complex. In essence, he threatens war and confrontations in the Baltic Sea waters, apparently planning something like that. Now Vladimir Putin is showing his American partners that the United States is an enemy in the Baltic Sea. In essence, the United States fears being drawn into a war against the Russian Federation. Putin says, okay, fine, indicating that you will have to choose between our tankers peacefully passing through the Danish Straits or direct military confrontation with the Russian Federation. Therefore, the ban on Russian tankers passing through Danish Straits may be seen as a reason for Russia to start some military action against NATO countries. And these actions may begin in 2025, when the United States holds presidential elections in November of the current year. There will be presidential elections. Either Donald Trump wins these elections or loses them, but declares that he does not recognize the election results, starting some internal turmoil in America. It is very important for Vladimir Putin to eliminate Trump from this game and for Trump not to have nuclear weapons involved in this situation. By the way, concerning Trump today, when I talk about this whole story with Straits and the possibility of Russian tankers breaking through Danish Straits, most likely, if this happens, it will be after the current year, in December or maybe next year. Today, Donald Trump's advisors, as reported by the American press, have proposed a plan to end Russia's war against Ukraine. The plan assumes that Ukraine will be deprived of any military aid from Washington if it refuses to start peace negotiations with the Russian Federation. At the same time, the United States is ready to threaten Russia that its refusal to negotiate will lead to increased American support for Ukraine. According to the plan proposed to Trump during peace negotiations, the parties must agree to a ceasefire based on the current front line. It means that approximately where the front line is now, it should remain and hostilities should cease. And what Russia has occupied will remain with Russia, and what Ukraine has managed to defend will remain Ukrainian. I honestly don't know how Ukrainian society will react to such a plan, because I think its reaction will be crucial here. Not the reaction of Zelensky or his government officials, but the reaction of Ukrainian society. Will Ukrainian society agree to such a ceasefire? In my opinion, no, it won't. But I could be wrong, because in the end we all understand that wherever this front line passes, or if the ceasefire, let's say, along the current front line, is achieved now, after some time, when Putin dies or when power changes in Russia, the territories that Russia has occupied will return to Ukraine's ownership. This is generally clear by itself, but to wait and risk, I'm not ready to talk about it. That Ukrainian society will react to it. Therefore, perhaps the most sensible thing would be to say that we agree, of course, to negotiations, but we do not agree to give our territory to Russia. That's probably the right way to respond to Trump. But for this, Trump first needs to win the elections. Plus, he has to accept this plan. Although apparently, he has accepted this plan. Why? Because something similar has been circulating in the American political information space several times. When they talk about Trump's readiness to end the war, they mean something like that. So another moment for Vladimir Putin. And this plan is not too good either. Why? Because its implementation keeps Ukraine as a state. After all, Vladimir Putin's main goal is to destroy the complete elimination of Ukrainian statehood. Will he agree to keep Ukrainian statehood? Personally, for me it's a big question. I think he won't agree. Plus, another moment here in this plan is the key moment for Putin. The mandatory completion of the war, the conditions for the completion of the war, is the lifting of all Western sanctions on Russia. Primarily, I'm not sure that European countries will agree to lift sanctions on Putin, if there's any agreement within this framework. What Trump offers doesn't have a future. Therefore, in my opinion, this plan will certainly not work. Negotiations can be started just to prevent Americans from denying Ukraine financial assistance. In principle, I think even if Trump becomes president, to fully deny Ukraine financial assistance, even he will not be able to, simply because the Congress or one of the houses of Congress will always be controlled by Democrats, and I don't think the Democrats will allow complete funding from Ukraine. Therefore, even if Trump comes up with something to do, he really can't implement it.